On January 10th, 2025, a large-scale fire broke out in one of the most densely populated areas of Los Angeles. The flames engulfed a multi-story apartment building located on a narrow street, making it difficult for fire trucks to get in. The fire spread rapidly due to outdated electrical wiring, and strong winds intensified it. Panicked residents tried to run out of their apartments, but smoke quickly filled the corridors, making it difficult to evacuate. Those who lived on the upper floors were trapped. The Los Angeles Fire Department received the call in the first minutes of the fire. Several crews were sent to the scene, each consisting of experienced firefighters. One of them was Daniel, a veteran firefighter who had dedicated more than a decade of his life to fighting fires. He was known for his bravery and willingness to risk himself for others. Upon arrival, the firefighters saw that the situation was critical. The flames had already engulfed 3 floors of the building, and the smoke from the upper floors made it impossible to breathe even through respirators. People on the balconies were begging for help, holding their children in their arms and waving their hands. Screams were coming from all directions, creating a chaotic atmosphere that tested the endurance of even the most experienced rescuers. Daniel's team was tasked with evacuating people from the 5th floor, where, according to eyewitnesses, a family with 2 children was staying. The fire was already approaching this part of the building, and every second could be fatal. Daniel entered the building with his partner without hesitation. The smoke was so thick that visibility was reduced to a few meters. A navigation system using special thermal imagers helped to determine where people were, but the risk remained high. On the 5th floor, the rescuers found a family huddled against a wall trying to escape the smoke. The parents were holding their children and trying to cover their faces with wet towels. Daniel and his partner quickly organized the evacuation. They wrapped the children in thermal blankets to protect them from heat stroke and started to descend the narrow stairs. But halfway down the stairs, the worst thing happened. Part of the ceiling collapsed, blocking the way to the exit. Daniel realized he had to act quickly. He decided to go back upstairs and find another way out through the window while his partner got the children out. The fire had already spread to the neighboring apartments, and the heat was unbearable. After a few minutes, Daniel managed to find a fire escape on the balcony and began evacuating his parents. But as he was helping the last person out, another collapse occurred. This time he was trapped under the rubble. His partner saw the situation and immediately rushed to his aid. They pulled him out from under the rubble, but Daniel had already suffered serious injuries. His body was covered with burns and several ribs were broken. He was taken to the nearest hospital, where doctors immediately began to fight for his life. Colleagues who remained at the scene continued rescue efforts, but their thoughts were focused on Daniel's condition. By the evening, the fire was localized, but its consequences were catastrophic. Several dozen people lost their homes, and the building became uninhabitable. Local residents gathered near the scene of the tragedy, expressing gratitude to the firefighters for their courage. The press quickly learned about Daniel's heroic act, and his story became a major news story. The family he saved was also in the hospital, but their condition was stable. They could not stop thanking the firefighters, especially Daniel, for saving their lives by risking his own. At the time, doctors were fighting for his recovery, but there was a long way to go for rehabilitation that required significant financial resources. On the second day after the tragedy, people started coming to the hospital to express their support for Daniel. Among them was Keanu Reeves, who learned about the incident from the news. He decided to visit the hospital in person to thank the firefighter for his heroism. His action was the beginning of a story that would change Daniel's life forever. The next morning, the hospital was filled with the buzz and chaos that is typical of crisis situations. The medical staff was constantly checking on the victims of the fire, making sure they received the help they needed. Daniel's family stayed close to his room, holding the hand of their hero, who was in a serious but stable condition. Despite severe pain and fatigue, Daniel remained conscious. His face was full of determination, even though he could barely move due to his multiple injuries. Meanwhile, the story of the fire and Daniel's heroic act quickly spread through local and national news. One of the stories broadcast on television caught the attention of Keanu Reeves. The actor, who was in Los Angeles at the time to shoot a new movie, was impressed by the firefighter's dedication and willingness to risk everything for others. He decided not to stand aside and went to the hospital to personally thank Daniel for his courage. When Keanu arrived at the hospital, he tried not to attract too much attention. He wore modest clothes, dark jeans, and a simple jacket. He was accompanied by only one trusted friend who helped coordinate the visit. He asked the hospital administration to keep his visit confidential, as he did not want media attention to interfere with patient care. When Keanu entered Daniel's room, he saw a man who looked exhausted but not broken. His face, partially bandaged, reflected both physical pain and inner strength. Keanu walked over to his bedside and looked at him silently with respect. Daniel, who could barely speak, met the actor's gaze. Their eyes met, and an imperceptible understanding arose between them. Although Keanu did not stay long, his visit was of great importance to Daniel and his family. Not only did he express his gratitude, but he also promised to do everything he could to help with the firefighter's recovery. Before he left, Keanu left a short note for Daniel expressing his respect and gratitude for his selflessness. After his visit to the hospital, Keanu began organizing help. He contacted the leading rehabilitation centers in the country to find the best place for Daniel's treatment. He also contacted the Los Angeles Fire Department to get more information about the injured hero's needs. He learned that insurance covers only part of the costs and that additional funds are needed for full recovery. Keanu spent the next hours developing a plan that would provide Daniel with everything he needed. He decided to make his contribution anonymously to avoid unnecessary hype and reached out to his team to organize financial support. The plan included paying for all rehabilitation costs, including physical therapy, psychological help, and special equipment to restore mobility. While Keanu's team worked on the details, there was a wave of optimism in the hospital. Daniel's family was amazed that even strangers were willing to help their hero. Daniel, although weak, felt that his efforts were not in vain. He knew that the fight was not over, but the support of people like Keanu gave him the strength to continue. That night, when Keanu returned home, he felt he had made the right choice. He knew that true kindness is not only about words, but also about actions that can change someone's life. For him, this day was a reminder that each of us can do something important for others, even in the most difficult times. On the third day after the fire, when the news of Daniel's heroism had already spread across the country, his rehabilitation began. Thanks to the efforts of Keanu Reeves, his family gained access to one of the best rehabilitation centers in the country. That morning, Daniel was transferred from the hospital to a new facility, specializing in the treatment of burn injuries and recovery from severe trauma. The rehabilitation center was impressive in its infrastructure. Spacious wards equipped with modern medical devices, spacious physical therapy rooms, and a professional team of doctors ensured the best conditions for recovery. Daniel was assigned a separate room overlooking the garden, where he could observe nature, which added calmness to his emotional state. The first day at the center was devoted to a comprehensive examination. The doctors and physiotherapists carefully studied his body condition and developed an individual recovery program. It was clear that the road to recovery would be long, but Daniel did not lose hope. He was determined to fight, as he did in his profession. During his stay at the center, Daniel felt support that he never expected. The medical staff treated him with respect and care, often reminding him that he was a real hero. What was especially impressive was that the rehabilitation process was monitored by a team that was organized through Keanu's initiative. All procedures, equipment, and additional resources were covered by funds that were anonymously donated to the center. Meanwhile, Keanu continued to stay involved in the process. He often came to the center to make sure Daniel was getting everything he needed. Each time, his visit went without too much attention, and he tried to stay in the shadows. For Daniel, these meetings became a source of inspiration. Although Keanu didn't make big speeches or draw attention to himself, his presence and sincere concern gave him confidence. Over the next few days, the first physical therapy sessions began. At first, every movement was difficult, but Daniel was ready to endure the pain to return to normal life. The rehabilitation team worked with him to restore the muscles that had suffered from prolonged bed rest, as well as exercises to restore mobility. One of the key parts of rehabilitation was working with a psychologist who helped Daniel overcome post-traumatic stress. In addition to medical procedures, the center organized many activities to provide moral support to patients. Among them were art therapy, group classes, and walks in the garden. Daniel gradually began to participate in these activities, which helped him feel part of the community. He even began to share his experience with other patients, motivating them not to give up. On the third day of his stay at the center, a group of children he had saved from a burning house came to visit Daniel. They brought him drawings and letters of gratitude that moved him to tears. Their words were a reminder of why he made his choice that tragic day. This moment became a turning point in his psychological state, restoring his confidence in his own abilities. This day was also important for Keanu. Watching Daniel's reaction to the children's visit, he realized that his efforts were not in vain. He realized that support can be not only financial, but also emotional, creating moments that inspire and restore faith in life. At the end of the day, Daniel took his first independent steps with the help of a walker. It was a symbolic achievement that everyone at the center celebrated as a great success. His fellow firefighters who came to see him applauded him, and the medical staff said that such progress in such a short time was a result of his determination and the support he was receiving. The fourth day after the fire brought new prospects for Daniel. His progress in the rehabilitation center was a cause for optimism not only for him, but for everyone who supported him. The news of his heroism continued to spread, causing a wave of sympathy and a desire to help. That day, Keanu Reeves organized a charity event in support of firefighters who risked their lives for the safety of others. The event was held in a spacious hall of one of the cultural centers of Los Angeles. The invitation was extended to both firefighters and local residents who wanted to express their gratitude. Among the guests were children who had been rescued by Daniel. The hall was decorated with photos of firefighters in action, stands with stories of heroes and videos demonstrating their courage. The atmosphere was solemn but warm. People gathered not only to raise funds, but also to express their solidarity. Keanu, speaking as the main organizer, remained humble and focused more on emphasizing the role of firefighters. In his opening remarks, he thanked everyone who has dedicated their lives to serving people. He also spoke about the importance of supporting heroes like Daniel, emphasizing that their efforts deserve the highest respect. One of the key parts of the event was the presentation of a symbolic award to Daniel. His colleagues from the fire brigade came together to present him with the award for his bravery. Due to his injuries, Daniel was unable to attend in person, but a video he had recorded from his ward was broadcast on a large screen. In his address, he expressed his gratitude for the support that helps him fight for recovery. Keanu, looking at the reaction of the guests, realized that his efforts had a profound impact. People were inspired by Daniel's story and became even more united. The event raised a significant amount of money to be used for Daniel's further rehabilitation and support of other injured firefighters. In addition, it was decided to donate part of the funds to the families who lost their homes in the fire. In addition to financial aid, the event had a deep emotional impact. People shared their stories and recalled how firefighters had saved them or their loved ones. The atmosphere of mutual support and gratitude created a sense that the community was becoming stronger. The evening ended with a video dedication to all the firefighters who gave their lives to save others. It was a touching moment that left no one in the audience indifferent. People gave a standing ovation, expressing their boundless respect for these heroes. After the event, Keanu personally went to the rehabilitation center to tell Daniel about the evening. He brought him a video of the event and told him about the reaction of the guests. Daniel, although physically exhausted, felt that his efforts were not in vain. He realized that his story was inspiring others and helping to unite the community. This day was another step towards recovery, not only physical, but also emotional. Daniel realized that he was not alone, but Keanu was, that his help could change the lives of many. On the fifth day after the fire, Daniel began to feel a new wave of energy and inspiration thanks to the support of the community and the efforts of Keanu Reeves. At the rehabilitation center, doctors were pleasantly surprised by his progress. Daniel, although still weak, showed an amazing determination that inspired other patients and even the medical staff. That morning, after another session of physiotherapy, Keanu came to the rehabilitation center again. He came with news that was supposed to boost Daniel's morale even more. He brought with him notes and drawings collected from children and adults who had been rescued from the fire. These letters were full of words of gratitude and warmth. Reading them was an important moment for Daniel, who felt that his efforts had made a real difference. Keanu also organized a small meeting at the Center for Patients and Staff. He wanted to give people a chance to talk and share their stories. At the meeting, Daniel spoke openly for the first time about his feelings after the fire. He talked about fear and pain, but also about his belief that humanity and compassion will always outweigh any difficulties. During the meeting, Keanu and Daniel formed a special friendship. Their conversations went beyond discussing rehabilitation. They talked about life, the challenges they had each experienced, and the importance of staying true to their principles. Keanu spoke about his belief that every good deed can create a chain reaction of change in the world. Daniel, in turn, expressed his gratitude for Keanu's support in his most difficult moment. That day, a group of volunteers who helped the fire victims also visited the rehabilitation center. They brought the necessary equipment for patients and organized workshops for those undergoing rehabilitation. Daniel took part in a master class on motivation, where he shared his experience and talked about the importance of teamwork in extreme situations. His words resonated with many people who had gone through difficult life challenges themselves. That evening, before leaving, Keanu gave Daniel a small but symbolic gift. It was a pendant in the shape of a shield with an engraving. "There is strength in loyalty." This gift has become a symbol of their friendship and a reminder that courage and support can overcome any difficulties. This day left a deep mark on Daniel's life. He realized that his story had become a source of inspiration for many and decided to do his best to continue to help others, even while he was in the process of recovery. For Keanu, this day was a confirmation that his efforts made a difference. He saw how humanity and kindness create a miracle, changing the lives of not only one person, but an entire community. The sixth day after the fire was a symbol of rebirth and the beginning of a new stage for Daniel. A special atmosphere prevailed in the rehabilitation center. The medical staff, patients, and guests who visited the center rallied around the firefighter's story, which inspired many. Although Daniel continued to struggle with physical difficulties, he was full of determination and optimism. His accomplishments in recent days were proof that effort, community support, and personal spirit can change even the most difficult circumstances. Today, he took his first confident steps without the help of a walker, and it was a real celebration for everyone at the center. On the same day, a film crew arrived at the center to capture this story for a documentary about heroes who changed the world. Keanu Reeves also agreed to take part in this project, but as always, he avoided undue attention to his personality. He insisted on focusing on Daniel and his incredible courage. In an interview for the film, Daniel shared his thoughts on the fire, the challenges he faced, and how the help of Keanu and the community changed his life. His words were simple, but extremely sincere. He said that thanks to the support, he felt that his actions mattered and that human kindness can heal not only the body but also the soul. Keanu, speaking in his usual humble style, emphasized that Daniel's heroism is an example for everyone. He said that people like Daniel remind us why it is important to help each other and appreciate those who risk their lives for others. For Keanu, this project was an opportunity to emphasize the importance of compassion and support. The day ended with the unveiling of a small memorial dedicated to the firefighters who gave their lives in the line of duty. The memorial, installed in the city center, became a symbol of the community's gratitude. Daniel, as the guest of honor, delivered a speech in which he called on everyone to remember the importance of mutual aid. He thanked his team, the medical staff, and Keanu for their support. At the end of the day, Keanu and Daniel found time for a quiet conversation. They sat in the garden of the rehabilitation center, discussing the future. Daniel shared his plans. He wanted to start working as a fire safety instructor to pass on his knowledge to a new generation of rescuers. Keanu expressed his full support and offered to help create a training program for young firefighters. This day was the culmination of a story that began with tragedy but ended with hope. Daniel got a new chance at life, and his story inspired thousands of people. Keanu, as before, remained in the shadows, but his influence was felt at every step of the way. They both knew that this was only the beginning, and that there was still much work to be done to make the world a better place for everyone.